So if ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine were declared effective treatment for SARS-CoV-2, it would have invalidated the vaccine. The vaccines would not have been allowed to get an EUA.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Project Veritas doing yet another undercover operation in which they spoke to an FDA lawyer from the Department of Justice about ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and the C-19 vaccination. Basically, the lawyer said that ivermectin shouldn't have been blocked. It shouldn't have been villainized. It should have been used as a legitimate therapeutic, as a legitimate treatment for COVID-19. Now, listen, I'm no doctor. I cannot give you medical advice. I can't do that. But there are plenty of doctors who are qualified to give medical advice. There are plenty of doctors who have treated patients successfully with ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, etc. Now, $1 million question, why was there such a big push to keep Americans off of these tried and true drugs that have been around for a very long time in favor of the very new, brand new vaccination that has not been tested at all for anything beyond a very short period of time? A 9-month window to create this thing when you got drugs that have been around 100 years and they've been tested and known to be safe. Now, before I go any further into it, let's take a look at what they put out before. Remember this tweet? Remember this from the FDA? You are not a horse. You are not a cow. Seriously, y'all, stop it. And the article that it links to, or that it linked to, because this has since been deleted after a lawsuit from actual doctors to say, hey, man, you can't be putting out stuff like this because this is a real medication. And the doctors won against the FDA. But the article that it linked to says why you should not use ivermectin to treat or prevent COVID-19. Okay. They were forced to remove this tweet, and rightfully so. Now, again, I don't really know why they would not want us to use these things, why they want to call it horse paste, why they want to get the mainstream media on their side, which was ridiculous, by the way. They want to call it horse paste. Okay, so if a horse can use this drug as a dewormer, then humans shouldn't use it. Well, they feed antibiotics to chickens, so should we not take that? It doesn't make any sense. At a certain point, we are organic beings, and things that may help a chicken or a horse or a cow may also help us. It's possible, okay? You have animals that eat other animals, and we eat other animals too. We're not that much different. We're not that far removed. We're just highly intelligent beings compared to the animals, usually. Sometimes I say that the animals are more intelligent, but different story, I digress. Let's get into the video here. And I know there's a beef with the founder of Project Veritas, James O'Keefe, and Project Veritas as it is today, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to get into the meat and potatoes of what's happening here with the FDA attorney. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
I did have a case. If you remember, during the pandemic, FDA issued some tweets that said, you're not a horse, you're not a cow.
I do remember that.
Stop it with the ivermectin.
Yes.
Well, they were sued over that.
Did you defend them in that?
I did. I was somewhat successful. I actually won my case. Then they appealed, and the different off the handle of appeals lost me.
Okay, so the guy, he was just talking about what I was talking about as far as that whole tweet, you're not a horse, you're not a cow, whatever. Now, he defended FDA in that, and he won, but then the decision was overturned on an appeal, and he wasn't on a defense for that one.
They really shouldn't be saying, don't date this drug. They'll often use something like tweets as like a vehicle to pursue a broader agenda.
What's behind the agenda, I don't know, but it's evil.
I do think it was a purposeful, coordinated attack into PR to get the shot in every arm. Talk to your doctor, not the government agency.
Well, they put out that tweet. That was probably the most successful public relations campaign that any health agency ever did.
The Food and Drug Administration had to put out an unusual warning to Americans this week. They tweeted, quote, "You are not a horse. You are not a cow. Seriously, y'all, stop it." They're talking about people who've been using Ivermectin, a drug usually.
You know what's going on. They said it earlier in this clip. They wanted to get a shot in every arm. They wanted to make you take this thing that they just came out with. And the way they could do that is make it seem like there's no other alternative. So anything else that you may want to take, it doesn't work. This drug that has been used for a very long time, decades, if not close to a century, with no problems in humans, all of a sudden is now a dangerous thing that should only be reserved for horses.
Used for deworming horses and livestock to treat COVID-19.
During the COVID pandemic, propaganda, deceit, and fear were rampant. But when a cheap Nobel Prize-winning wonder drug began to emerge as a hopeful treatment, the media, the government, and Big Pharma went to war against it.
This should just let everybody know that you should not trust the government, especially not with medical situations. Okay, maybe talk to an actual doctor. If a doctor has success in treating patients using certain drugs and it's been tried and true over a long period of time, maybe we should talk to that person rather than some random person in the government who doesn't know what's going on, who will tell you that you need to stand 6 feet away from somebody in order to not catch COVID-19. And then when they come back and ask them, hey, where did that recommendation come from? Arbitrary, random number, not scientific. You see what I'm saying? They're just spitballing. They're just regular people that have a lot of power to impact your life. And that's why I reject them.
The FDA launched a public relations attack campaign against the drug, spreading the horse medicine lie. That is, until a group of doctors sued the FDA, and one restricting the agency's ability to act as America's doctor. In today's Project Veritas undercover report, meet the doctors who fought back, and hear the FDA's attorney as he reveals what he really thinks about the FDA's PR campaign and the now notorious medicine, Ivermectin.
Now, I won't play the entire thing because of time constraints. I will link to it in the box if you want to see it in full, but I'll play a little bit more in this video.
There was some legitimate problem with what FDA did. An agency can only do what it has statutory authorization to do. Like FDA can only do what Congress said it can do. That's it. The argument was that FDA didn't have authority to tell people not to take a certain drug. It's okay for FDA to communicate information about the drug, but that it's not okay to take the next step and actually tell people you should not take this drug.
Right. So the FDA shouldn't be in the business of trying to tell you what drugs you should not take or what drugs you cannot take. You can just give information about the drugs. You can be transparent that way. But when it comes to trying to control people, see, now we overstepping our boundaries.
Because making a recommendation of what drugs to take or not to take, that's the practice of medicine.
Meaning talk to your doctor, not the government.
An FDA can't practice medicine.
He acknowledges that the FDA was out of line. Well, I practiced emergency medicine for over 40 years, and I retired from that in July of 2020. I've done more than 15,000 patient consultations for COVID. However, treating with ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine went against the government narrative. So the government's apparent agenda since the start of this has been to force everybody, regardless of whether it makes any sense, to get these COVID so-called vaccines, which we now know are poison jabs.
So you have doctors saying this. Listen, it's not me. I'm not a doctor. This is a man who's an emergency physician, or had been for what he said, 40 years, very long time, treated a lot of patients for C-19. I think I'm going to take his word for it more than I would take some random suit at the FDA.
So how did they lose the appeal then?
So if what the agency has done is like totally beyond the pale, like there is no authority whatsoever to do that. like unquestionably the honest authority.
One thing that struck me at both cases is how immature and inexperienced the lawyers were for the FDA.
Well, we settled the case, but we settled it largely on our terms. They had to take down the offensive tweets and the offending public relations campaign. Unfortunately, they didn't really change their policy about ivermectin, and I'm still faced with fighting the medical boards and the licensing boards over my license for using ivermectin for COVID, in spite of the fact that they haven't been able to identify a single patient that has a complaint against me or a single adverse outcome.
See that right there? This is the federal government. I say it every video. I feel like the federal government is terrible. All these bureaucrats, and at a certain point, this is about money, because the C-19 vaccination, that was a blank check that we the people had to foot the bill for, and who knows how much that tally is going to be, because it's an ongoing blank check. It's not just a one-time fee. Like, okay, boom, let's pay $200 trillion or whatever the case may be. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but there's not just one amount. It's a continuous thing, because as far as I know, you can still get it and it's free. So if it's free to go get, then it's not free in reality. You're still paying for it. You just don't know it. You're paying for it by way of inflation, by way of higher taxes and things of this nature, because that's how government pays for things from you. You are the actual source of government funding, not anything else. It's you.
Now I've treated over 6,000 COVID patients, and I can say none of my patients have been hospitalized because of using ivermectin, contrary to what Isaac reports in that video. It's one of the safest medications I've ever used. I have far more problems with people calling me about side effects from antibiotics than I do from ivermectin.
There we go. There we have it. There we have it. Now, there's more to the video, and again, I will link to it in the box so you can see the rest. But there you have it. I mean, listen, if you want to go out there and get the vaccination for whatever the reason may be, despite all of what we know about it, that it's dangerous, that it can really put your life in jeopardy, it could cause your heart to have a really big problem, like, I don't know, ceasing to function, and you just pass away from cardiac arrest. I mean, we know that these are some of the side effects from C-19, from the vaccination, from what we have been told by people who have gotten it. We know that. We saw some of the videos in the very beginning where you had nurses passing out. We saw all that. And I'm going to just give you one anecdote from my personal life, then I wrap it on up and put the bow on top. Now, my doctor, my primary care physician out here where I live, he was in the Navy for 20 years as a doctor, and he got out of the Navy because when C-19 came around and the vaccination came around, he got tired of seeing all these healthy 18-year-old young men coming into the Navy, fit, physically fit, been working out, playing sports, boom, falling out, going to the hospital after they get the vaccine. He got tired of seeing it. It's like, you know what? I'm done. No more. My own doctor told me, hey, man, don't even deal with it. Don't do it. You're good. Just leave it alone as far as getting the vaccination. So I think I trust my doctor, who has years and years, over 2 decades of experience actually treating patients. I think I would trust him more than some random stuffed shirt on Capitol Hill who works for the FDA. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your take on what these doctors said and what the lawyer said about C-19, the vax, and HCQ, IVM, whatever your thoughts are? Let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. I've been saying the same thing from the beginning. I've been talking about how these drugs that have been around for a very long time, that have been proven to be safe, are better for you than the vaccination. I've been saying that. And of course, many of us got demonetized and deplatformed and all kind of stuff for saying that. Now we're vindicated. Now we've been proven correct. Unfortunately, the damage from the lie that the FDA and their acolytes put out there may be a little bit too much to reverse, unfortunately. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.